In a world where law enforcement officers are entrusted with the duty to protect and serve, it is a startling realization when the very guardians of justice find themselves on the wrong side of the law. Today we are going to explore the intriguing tale of what befalls cops who commit crimes as their once noble badges become tarnished and their paths converge with the confines of a jail cell. Manuel Pardo, Manuel Manny Pardo Jr., born on September 24, 1956 in New York, was an American serial killer and former police officer in South Florida. Pardo had a troubled past and a career in law enforcement that ended in disgrace. Pardo began his law enforcement career in the 1970s with the Florida Highway Patrol, where he graduated at the top of his class at the academy. However, his promising career took a turn when he was fired from the agency in 1979 for falsifying traffic tickets. Despite this setback, Pardo was soon hired by the Sweetwater Police Department, a small city in Miami-Dade County. During his time with the Sweetwater Police Department, Pardo's behavior became increasingly questionable. He had brushes with the law, including an incident involving lying to investigators. Eventually, his misconduct led to the termination of his position within the department. After losing his job, Pardo became involved in the drug trade. In January 1986, Pardo embarked on a killing spree that would ultimately claim the lives of 9 victims. Working with his partner and co-defendant Rolando Garcia, Pardo committed a series of brutal crimes over the course of a few months. Their victims included Mario Amador and Roberto Alonso, whom Pardo killed during a robbery using a .22 caliber Ruger pistol. Pardo's murderous rampage continued as he targeted Michael Millet, a Haitian anti-Duvalier activist he believed to be a police informant. Pardo shot Millet in the head with a 9mm pistol, using a car as a lure. The car belonged to Pardo's wife and had been reupholstered to hide any evidence of the crime. In February 1986, Pardo killed Luis Robledo and Ulpiano Ledo during a robbery of their home. The month of April proved to be particularly deadly, as Pardo claimed the lives of Farah Quintero and Sarah Musa over an argument about a pawned ring and a dispute regarding stolen credit cards. Pardo justified his actions by claiming that Quintero had marked him for death in the Santeria religion. The final victims of Pardo's killing spree were Ramon, Alvaro and his girlfriend, Daisy Ricard. As Alvaro failed to show up for several drug deals, Pardo shot them to death. During this encounter, Pardo sustained an injury to his foot when his .22 Ruger pistol jammed, leading him to bludgeon Ricard with the handgun. Pardo's reign of terror came to an end when he was apprehended in New York City. He was found in a hospital with a bullet in his foot that matched the ones found in his final victims. Upon investigation, police discovered a casing from Alvaro's car and a calendar book in Pardo's apartment, which linked him to several unsolved homicides. Pardo had meticulously recorded the dates of each murder in the book, along with newspaper clippings about the crimes. During his trial, Pardo took the witness stand in his own defense against the advice of his attorneys. He declared that his mission was to rid Florida of its drug culture by killing drug dealers and buyers. He said, "I am a soldier, I accomplished my mission, and I humbly ask you to give me the glory of ending my life and not send me to spend the rest of my days in state prison." Pardo admitted to at least 6 of the 9 murders, claiming his victims were parasites with no right to live. Prosecutors argued that Pardo and Garcia were drug dealers, eliminating the competition. Pardo was found guilty on 9 counts of first-degree murder and was sentenced to death. Throughout his time on death row, he maintained his belief that he had done society a favor by killing drug dealers. After spending a total of 26 years awaiting his execution, Manuel Pardo Jr. was executed by lethal injection on December 11, 2012 at Florida State Prison. For his final meal, Manuel Pardo chose a satisfying spread consisting of rice, red beans, roasted pork, plantains, avocado, tomatoes, and a drizzle of olive oil. He enjoyed a slice of pumpkin pie for dessert, accompanied by eggnog and Cuban coffee. In his last words, he expressed his love for his daughter, saying, "Airborne forever. I love you, Mishi baby." The case of Manuel Pardo also garnered some attention in popular culture. A character named Manny Pardo, loosely based on him, appears in the video game Hotline Miami 2, Wrong Number. There has also been speculation that the fictional character Dexter Morgan, a serial killer and vigilante in the TV series Dexter, was inspired in part by Pardo. Wayne Couzens. On the fateful evening of March 3, 2021, tragedy struck in South London, England, when 33-year-old Sarah Everard was abducted as she walked home from a friend's house near Clapham Common. The shocking incident would send shockwaves throughout the country and ignite a passionate debate about women's safety and the role of the police in British society. Sarah Everard, a marketing executive for a digital media agency, had been making her way through the Brixton Hill area when an off-duty Metropolitan Police constable stopped her named Wayne Couzens. Couzens, Cousins, who identified himself as a police officer, handcuffed Sarah, forcing her into his car. Little did she know this encounter would be her last. Driven to a location near Dover, Cousins raped and strangled Sarah, then callously disposed of her body by burning it and disposing of the remains in a nearby pond. The heinousness of the crime sent shockwaves throughout the nation, leaving many questioning the safety of women and the integrity of the police force. The aftermath of the crime brought forth a wave of public mourning and outrage. Vigils were organized in memory of Sarah Everard, particularly on Clapham Common, close to where she had disappeared. As the investigation unfolded, it became apparent that the perpetrator was none other than Wayne Cousins himself, the very police officer tasked with upholding the law and protecting citizens. Cousins, who had joined the Metropolitan Police from the Civil Nuclear Constabulary in 2018, had not undergone thorough vetting or completed the mandatory probation period before being assigned to the Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Branch. Details emerged about the chilling timeline of events on the night of Sarah's abduction. Cousins had booked a white Vauxhall car from a rental agency in Dover, and on the evening of March 3rd, he embarked on a 12-hour shift at the U.S. Embassy in London before setting out on his sinister mission. Tracking his movements through CCTV and ANPR technology revealed that he had followed Sarah Everard, eventually stopping her under the guise of a police officer. Cousins and Sarah were captured on various surveillance cameras as they drove to Kent, where he later raped her. He then purchased drinks from a petrol station, believed to be at the time when he had already strangled her using his police duty belt. Cousins proceeded to drive to Hodes Wood near Ashford, where he burned Sarah's body in a refrigerator and ultimately disposed of her remains in a pond. The investigation unfolded rapidly, with Cousins making attempts to cover his tracks. He reported himself as ill from work and handed in his police equipment, including his belt and handcuffs. However, the truth would not remain hidden for long. The police discovered human remains in Hodes Wood on March 10th, which were later identified as Sarah Everard through dental records. Wayne Cousins was swiftly arrested on suspicion of kidnapping and later on suspicion of murder at his home in Deal, Kent. During interviews, he initially denied recognizing Sarah, but later fabricated a story about financial problems and threats from Eastern Europeans. The evidence against him mounted, and he was charged with kidnapping and murder on March 12th. The legal proceedings against Cousins began, and on June 8, 2021, he pleaded guilty to kidnapping and rape, accepting responsibility for Sarah Everard's death. The charge of murder was later added, and on July 9th, he pleaded guilty to that as well. When Wayne Cousins was sentenced to a whole life order for the kidnapping, rape, and murder of Sarah Everard, it became obvious he had to expect a lifetime of horrors behind bars among his fellow whole tariff lifers, including convicted police killers. He was initially sent to HMP Belmarsh for assessment before being integrated into the dispersal system, a network of 5 top security prisons across the UK where there was nowhere to hide from the country's most notorious criminals. Noel Smith, a reformed armed robber who worked as an editor for a prison magazine, revealed what Cousins could anticipate during his time in jail. According to Smith, it was predicted to be a nightmare for him from beginning to end. Cousins joined a small and ACO, exclusive club of fewer than 60 whole tariff lifers in the UK, several of whom were police killers who still harbored hatred towards law enforcement. Due to their limited numbers, segregating them proved challenging as the prison system was too small. Consequently, Cousins was bound to encounter them regularly, with no escape or respite. Considered a unique prisoner as a former police officer receiving a whole life tariff, Cousins was aware of the treatment police officers received in jail, as he would have been informed upon his arrival. It was believed that if he had been placed in a regular prison, he would have faced daily threats of stabbings, scaldings, or rape. However, in an effort to protect himself, he would spend most of his day confined to his cell and have minimal interaction with other inmates, particularly during the initial 5 or 6 years. Top security prisons operated differently, offering no assurances of personal safety. Cousins was taken to the hospital twice during his time in prison due to head injuries sustained while incarcerated. He was placed under suicide watch until his final day, with constant monitoring and surveillance. It was observed that he appeared suicidal, often keeping his head down and shaking in court. In the prison where Cousins was housed, his cell was under 24-hour surveillance, allowing staff to monitor his activities via screens. The cells were designed to prevent suicides or escape attempts, and personnel regularly checked on him every 15 minutes throughout the night. Lifers like Cousins are subjected to strict measures because they have committed heinous crimes that deeply outraged public decency and humanity. Among his fellow inmates are infamous individuals such as Michael Adebolaho, one of Fusilier Lee Rigby's killers, as well as Mark Bridger, neo-Nazi Thomas Mayer, Grindr serial killer Stephen Port, and the more recent terror attacker Khairi Sadala, who murdered 3 men in Reading. Cousins will spend the rest of his days in jail as a reminder of the horrible things he did to Sarah and will always be hated for his crime. Amber Geiger. On the evening of September 6, 2018, Botham Jean, a 26-year-old accountant, was tragically killed when Amber Geiger, an off-duty patrol officer assigned to the Cedars District in South Dallas, entered his apartment in Dallas, Texas, and shot him. Initially charged with manslaughter, Geiger's actions sparked protests and accusations of racial bias, as Jean, an unarmed black man, was killed in his own home by a white officer who appeared to ignore standard police procedures. Botham Jean and Amber Geiger resided in the Dallas Southside Flats apartment complex. Geiger lived on the 3rd floor directly below Jean's apartment on the 4th floor. On the night of the incident, Geiger had completed a 13.5-hour shift and arrived at the complex, parking her vehicle on the 4th floor. While speaking on the phone with her partner, she proceeded to Jean's apartment, mistakenly believing it was her own. Despite several indicators that she was on the wrong floor, including a distinct red doormat outside Jean's apartment, Geiger failed to notice and attempted to unlock the door. Finding it ajar, she entered the apartment and encountered Jean, who was eating ice cream in his living room. Geiger fired her weapon, shooting Jean in the chest. She claimed to have perceived him as an intruder and feared for her life. Jean was taken to the hospital but succumbed to his injuries. Amber Geiger initially faced a charge of manslaughter, but public outcry and the racial implications of the shooting led to protests. The Dallas Police Department fired Geiger on September 24, 2018. Subsequently, she was indicted on murder charges. The prosecution argued that Geiger's intent to kill was demonstrated by her failure to follow proper protocols and her failure to seek assistance when she believed an intruder was present. During the trial, which began on September 23, 2019, it was revealed that Geiger had been speaking with her lover shortly before arriving at Jean's apartment, and her tiredness was not the primary cause of her confusion. The prosecution argued that she disregarded standard police procedures by entering the apartment without backup. Geiger testified that she believed she was entering her own apartment when she encountered Jean. Fearing for her life, she shot him, mistaking him for an intruder. Prosecutors argued that Geiger's police training should have guided her to seek cover and call for backup if she perceived a threat. The defense claimed her actions were a result of innocent mistakes. During the trial, prosecutors presented incendiary text messages from Geiger and social media posts she had made. These messages and posts portrayed derogatory views and a cavalier attitude toward violence. Additionally, phone records indicated that Geiger had been engaged in an extramarital affair, suggesting distraction and preoccupation on the night of the shooting. Legal experts noted that the jury likely found Geiger's self-defense argument unreasonable, as her actions fell outside the realm of what they deemed reasonable. On October 1, 2019, Geiger was found guilty of murder after 6 hours of jury deliberation. She became the first Dallas police officer convicted of murder since 1973. The following day, she was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Although prosecutors had sought a 28-year prison sentence, the jury decided on a 10-year term. Following the sentencing, an unexpected and emotional moment occurred in the courtroom. Botham Jean's brother, Brant Jean, delivered a victim impact statement and expressed forgiveness towards Geiger, citing his Christian faith. He requested to hug Geiger, which the judge, Tammy Kemp, allowed. The two shared a hug, accompanied by tears from the spectators. Judge Kemp also spoke with Geiger, offering her a Bible and a hug. However, the sentence sparked outrage among supporters of Botham Jean, who felt it was insufficient and a disappointment to the victim's family. Criticism was expressed, with chants of "no justice, no peace," and people viewing the sentence as a slap in the face to the Jean family. During the trial's punishment phase, Botham Jean's mother, Allison Jean, also testified about her son's death's impact on the family. She described him as a talented individual who excelled academically, was devoted to his Christian faith, and enjoyed activities like rugby and singing in the choir. Botham Jean's father, Bertram Jean, also shared his devastation, expressing the family's brokenheartedness. Geiger is currently incarcerated at the Mountain View unit in Gatesville, which is located approximately 45 minutes away from Waco. The Mountain View unit currently accommodates around 645 inmates, which includes female offenders, some of whom are on death row, including the famous Darlie Routier, Yolanda Saldivar, the individual responsible for the murder of Tejano superstar Selena, and Diane Zamora, who was convicted for the murder of Adrienne Jones in Mansfield in 1995, a case famously known as the Texas Cadet murder due to its involvement with a love triangle, is also housed at Mountain View. Amber Geiger is currently serving her prison sentence, with the possibility of release as early as September 2024. Newman Raja. In the early hours of a crisp October morning, the quiet city of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, was shattered by an event that would forever change the lives of two individuals. Corey Jones, a talented musician and dedicated youth mentor, found himself in a fateful encounter with police officer Newman K. Raja, leading to a tragic loss of life and a fight for justice. Corey Jones was a man of immense talent and a heart full of compassion. Born on February 3, 1984, he grew up in a musical household where the sound of instruments filled the air. He played the French horn and pursued his love for music throughout his life. Alongside his musical pursuits, Jones was a youth mentor at My Brother's Keeper, an organization dedicated to empowering African American youths. Jones was also a dedicated Delray Beach Housing Authority employee, working diligently as an inspector and assistant property manager to ensure housing units' livability and foster positive communication between tenants and landlords. Through his work and mentorship, Jones left an indelible mark on the community he cherished. On that ill-fated night of October 18, 2015, Jones encountered tragedy while waiting for a tow truck in his disabled vehicle. Unbeknownst to him, Newman K. Raja, dressed in plain clothes and driving an unmarked van, approached Jones under the guise of a police officer. Within seconds, Raja fired 6 shots at Jones, striking him 3 times. The claims of self-defense and identification as a police officer made by Raja were later proven false by an audio recording of the incident. The loss of Corey Jones sent shockwaves through his extensive network of family and friends. He hailed from a large, close-knit family, and among his cousins were NFL players Vince Wilfork and Anquan Bolden. Jones's family, represented by renowned civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump, embarked on a journey for justice reminiscent of previous cases like Trayvon Martin, a 17-year-old African-American boy who was fatally shot in Sanford, Florida by George Zimmerman, a 28-year-old Hispanic American. The investigation into Jones's tragic death was carried out by the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office with assistance from the FBI. The absence of body camera footage and dash cam recordings left investigators reliant on witness statements and forensic evidence. Raja's employment history and personal background were scrutinized, shedding light on his previous work as a police instructor and his Pakistani heritage. The case against Newman K. Raja reached a turning point when, on June 1, 2016, he was charged with manslaughter by culpable negligence and attempted first-degree murder with a firearm. Palm Beach County State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg affirmed that Raja had no justification for his actions, as he failed to identify himself as a police officer before opening fire on Jones. The subsequent trial revealed the true nature of the encounter between Raja and Jones. Contrary to Raja's claims, the audio recordings unveiled a different story, one of deception and unnecessary violence. Raja's conviction on March 7, 2019, for manslaughter and attempted first-degree murder marked a significant moment in Florida's legal history. He was sentenced to 25 years in prison. During the hearing, Chief Assistant State Attorney Adrienne Ellis stated that Corey Jones did nothing wrong and that Raja had alternative options besides killing him. Ellis requested a 30-year sentence for manslaughter and life imprisonment for attempted murder. Raja's defense attorney, Richard Lubin, denounced the racial narrative surrounding the case, asserting that Raja is not a racist and blaming the media for sensationalizing the issue. Raja's wife, Kareen, defended her husband, emphasizing that he was not a murderer or a racist. She spoke of his dedication as a parent and the impact of his absence on their children. Supportive testimonials were also provided by Raja's friend, Jennifer Carrera, who highlighted his care for her children, and Raja's brother, Adnan Raja, a Palm Beach County Sheriff's deputy, attested to his brother's character and denied any racial motivations. Corey Jones's family delivered emotional statements, expressing the profound pain caused by his loss and requesting a life sentence for Raja. They recounted their last interactions with Corey, painting a picture of the loving relationship they shared. Amidst the legal battle, Corey Jones's family pursued a civil suit against the city of Palm Beach Gardens and Newman K. Raja. On February 23, 2023, after years of fighting for justice, a $2 million settlement was reached, acknowledging the wrongdoing and the irreplaceable loss suffered by the family. Raja is presently incarcerated at the Marion Correctional Institution situated in Ocala. His current projected release from prison is set for the year 2044. Daniel Holtzclaw. Daniel Ken Holtzclaw was born on December 10, 1986 in Guam, a U.S. territory, to Eric and Kumiko Holtzclaw. His father served as a lieutenant in the police department in Enid, Oklahoma. After graduating from Enid High School in 2005, Holtzclaw pursued his passion for football and played as a linebacker, even setting a school record for 25 tackles in a game. He continued his athletic career at Eastern Michigan University, earning a criminal justice degree in 2010. Following an unsuccessful attempt to get drafted drafted into the NFL. Holtzclaw decided to join the Oklahoma City Police Department. The criminal charges against Holtzclaw emerged when multiple African-American women accused him of sexually assaulting them between December 2013 and June 2014. It was alleged that Holtzclaw deliberately targeted women from a predominantly poor and black neighborhood in Oklahoma City. According to investigators, he used his position as an officer to run background checks on his potential victims, seeking information that could be used to coerce them into sexual encounters. One pivotal moment in the case was when Janie Ligens, a 57-year-old woman passing through the targeted area, reported being sexually assaulted by Holtzclaw during an unauthorized traffic stop on June 18, 2014. Unlike some other women he was accused of accosting, Ligens did not have a criminal record, and she was not from a disadvantaged background. Ligens reported that Holtzclaw forced her to lift her shirt and pull down her pants before subjecting her to unwanted sexual advances, specifically coercing her into performing oral sex on him. During the incident, Ligens expressed fear for her life and begged him to stop. The distressing nature of her experience is evident from her prompt decision to file a police report after the incident. This incident triggered an investigation, which led to the discovery of additional victims who shared similar experiences. Holtzclaw maintained his innocence during the trial, pleading not guilty to all charges. His defense team sought to challenge the credibility of the victims by highlighting their criminal histories. In total, 13 women were willing to testify against Holtzclaw, but the actual number of victims might have been higher. The evidence presented during the trial included DNA found on a spot inside Holtzclaw's uniform trousers, which matched one of the victims' DNA. However, his defense argued that the DNA could have been transferred innocently through routine police procedures. Despite the defense's arguments, on December 10, 2015, Holtzclaw was found guilty of 18 of the 36 charges he faced, which included first-degree rape, sexual battery, stalking, and forcible oral sodomy. The jury recommended a severe sentence of 263 years in prison. Media coverage of the trial became a subject of criticism, with some activists pointing out that it received relatively little attention from mainstream media compared to other high-profile cases. Local activists Grace Franklin and Candace Liger formed the OKC Artists for Justice group to draw attention to the case and raise awareness about sexual violence against black women. The case attracted support from individuals like Michelle Malkin and Jason Flom, who believed in Holtzclaw's innocence and raised concerns about handling the investigation and evidence. However, the appeal process ultimately upheld Holtzclaw's conviction and sentence. The aftermath of the trial saw the city of Oklahoma City settling with 9 of Holtzclaw's accusers, compensating them for the trauma they endured during the incidents. Daniel Holtzclaw is currently serving his time in an undisclosed Oklahoma State prison. He has been held in a secret location under an assumed name for his security. All information about him was removed from the website of the Oklahoma Department of Corrections. This was all about the reality of what happens to cops in jail. Thank you for staying with us. If you enjoy our content, our newest videos are just a click away.